Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're uncovering the story of Seneca Village. Before Central Park was Central Park, this land was home to hundreds of people, and between what is now West 82nd and 89th Streets, a unique and prosperous settlement took root. This was Seneca Village, a community founded in 1825 by a group of free African Americans. Think about that for a moment. In an era when slavery was still a brutal reality in much of the country, and just a few years before it was fully abolished in New York State, black families were not just free here, they were landowners. It all started when a young African American man named Andrew Williams bought 3 lots of land for $125. Soon after, another man, Epiphany Davis, purchased 12 lots. They, along with the trustees of the Ames Zion Church, began to sell plots to other members of the black community. This was revolutionary. Owning property was more than just having a place to live. It was a ticket to power. In New York at the time, a black man needed to own at least $250 worth of property to be able to vote. Seneca Village wasn't just a home. It was a pathway to political voice and self-determination. And the community grew. By the 1850s, Seneca Village was a bustling settlement of about 225 residents. It was a diverse, middle-class neighborhood. About 2/3 of the residents were African American, and the other third were Irish and German immigrants who had recently fled famine and unrest in Europe. This wasn't a shanty town, as its detractors would later claim. This was a place of substance. There were 3 churches, including the AME Zion Church and All Angels Church, which became the social and spiritual hearts of the community. There was a school called Colored Children, 3, ensuring the next generation had access to education. People had gardens, they raised livestock, and they lived in 2- and 3-story wood frame houses. Archaeological digs in recent years have uncovered things like a child's shoe, an iron tea kettle, and fine china, painting a picture of a stable, family-oriented life. The residents were homeowners, servants, janitors, and laborers who were building a better future for themselves and their children. So, what happened? Why is there a park here instead of a town? The answer lies in the growing pains of New York City. By the mid-19th century, the city's elite were clamoring for a grand public park, a space to rival the great parks of London and Paris. They wanted a place for recreation, for fresh air, and, let's be honest, a place to show off their wealth and social status. The chosen location was a huge swath of land right in the middle of Manhattan, and unfortunately for the residents of Seneca Village, their homes were directly in the path of this grand vision. The city's government and media began a ruthless campaign to seize the land. They started by smearing the reputation of Seneca Village and the other smaller communities on the land. The newspapers called it a shantytown, home to squatters living in wretched huts. They used racist and classist language to portray the residents as poor, immoral, and undeserving of the land they legally owned. This was a deliberate strategy to dehumanize the inhabitants and make it easier for the public to accept their forced removal. They completely ignored the fact that many residents, especially in Seneca Village, were legal property owners with deeds and documents to prove it. The city invoked the power of eminent domain. This is the legal principle that allows the government to seize private property for public use, as long as they provide just compensation. But what is just? Residents were offered buyouts for their homes, but the amounts were often far below market value. Many felt cheated and powerless. They protested, they filed lawsuits, they fought to keep their homes and their community intact. Imagine the anguish of having built a life, a church, a school, only to have it all threatened by a city that saw your existence as an inconvenience. Court records from the time showed desperate pleas from residents, trying to prove the value of their property and the injustice of their removal. Despite their resistance, the fight was ultimately lost. By 1857, the last residents of Seneca Village were forced out. Their homes were demolished, their churches were torn down, their school was razed to the ground, blasted with dynamite, and reshaped into the picturesque landscapes we see today. The story of Seneca Village was buried, literally and figuratively, beneath the lawns, lakes, and paths of Central Park. For over a century, it was almost completely forgotten. A footnote in the park's official history, if it was mentioned at all. The narrative of the squatters and the shantytown was the one that survived. The lost history of Seneca Village didn't get attention until the 1990s. Through painstaking research of old maps, census records, tax documents, and church archives, they began to piece together the true story. The Seneca Village Project, an archaeological endeavor, started excavating the site, uncovering the physical evidence that proved this was a stable, organized community. These discoveries helped rewrite the history books and challenge the false narrative that had persisted for so long. Today, if you visit Central Park, you can find a few reminders. There are historical signs that mark the general area where Seneca Village once stood. Walking tours now guide visitors through the site, telling the story of the people who lived and dreamed here. But for the most part, you have to use your imagination. As you walk past the playgrounds and jogging paths, try to picture the wooden houses, the church steeples, the gardens, the children playing. This land holds the memory of a community that was sacrificed for what we now call Central Park. The story of Seneca Village is a powerful and somber reminder of how progress for some can mean displacement and erasure for others. It highlights themes of race, class, and power that are just as relevant today as they were in the 1850s. It forces us to ask difficult questions about who gets to decide the fate of a city and whose history is deemed worthy of being remembered. The people of Seneca Village built a unique and important haven of Black land ownership and self-sufficiency, only to have it taken away in the name of public good. Their story deserves to be told, to be remembered, and to be honored. Thanks so much for watching. The next time you're in Central Park, I hope you'll remember the vibrant community that lies beneath. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe for more hidden histories. See you in the next video.